Hello everyone, SOB here, and I'm just gonna do a quick little video here on what to slot and what not to slot in the Breakfast Club fleet holdings. I'm making this public as I imagine that there's somebody else out there in a different fleet that may find some of this information useful to figure out how to use the system themselves. So let's start out with the fleet colony holding here. I'm assuming with all these that your holdings are complete, so if your holdings are not complete, you may want to slot the larger XP projects for the corresponding holdings to get those leveled up properly. So the first thing to keep in mind is to take advantage of this provisions tab here on the holding window. With this, you can see what provisions you have a large amount of and what you are needing. So you see we don't really need anything here. But if we did, what we would want to slot is these projects that take the provisions, energy credits, XP, lithium, fleet marks. You know, they're a traditional fleet project. What you want to avoid are these projects that are basic provisioning. These require lithium to complete, and they are very expensive. The other project the colony has is this Defense Sim Tokens project. This, once filled, only takes 8 minutes to complete, so you can quickly put this in between projects and then get back to your normal projects afterwards. But only slot this as needed. I believe the max amount of those provisions you can have is like 150, unless they change that, I don't remember. Going to the lithium mine here. Unlike the rest of the holdings, there's no basic provisioning projects for this holding, so just keep slotting these two projects. They're the only ones you can slot. Moving on to the embassy, same as before with the colony world, don't slot the basic provisioning. There's only these two normal projects and then the provisioning ones, so just keep slotting these normal ones. They will provide you with all the provisions you need. As you can see, like with the Breakfast Club here, we have built up a massive stockpile over time. K13, exact same thing. Don't slot basic provisioning projects. They are bad. Don't do it. Research Lab, same thing for these upper four. And there is a special project here, but I'll come back to that after I get through the rest of the holdings. Spire, same thing. Don't do basic provisioning. You see a pattern here? Starbase, you have a lot more options because there's a lot more provision types. Each one of these has 3 different provisions, and unlike the embassy, with these embassy projects, they give you provisions for each. With the Starbase, it don't work like that. Each of these projects will provide 1 provisioning type, so you have to figure out what you need to slot. It's like right here in the Breakfast Club for the science side of things, we need a buff project, like a science buff provisioning project, which I've went down and I have found ongoing research projects. You can see what they reward by hovering over the icons. And you can also see what these projects need by hovering over the icons to see the exact requirements. So, need these buff provisioning ones. I just hit select, it's queued. You can slot any combination of these projects. You don't have to do Psi, TAC, Eng. I just generally do that just so there's opportunities for each type of duty officers. But you can, like if you wanted, you could go through and slot science or engineering in all of them. Though this window will often lag out and you have to wait a very long time for it to actually register your input. And if you have a slot where you slot something and then nothing happens, just click on a different slot and queue something else, then change it back to the original thing that was queued there. So if I was having issues with this not slotting after I queued it, I could just go here and say hit that, it would change, and then it would auto-update that one. It's just a really weird system. It's got a lot of issues. Now for this bottom Starbase slot, this is basically user discretion. this is why we have so many people in the fleet that have access to slot projects, is we want to make sure people can keep slotting these. And really just only slot things that you know that you yourself or others can fill. Preferably don't slot this confiscate contraband one and probably this top one where they need a few DOFs. Those can suck, and contraband can be expensive at points, or that's a really valuable commodity. I wouldn't slot the contraband one. The colonization efforts one I really prefer, because if you do a lot of admiralty, you're going to get a lot of the civilian DOFs, so that's pretty handy to dump them in there. Then this other really valuable project that people love to do is this unload surplus fleet marks. This is the one where you need to dump 2,000 fleet marks into it. And as many of you are likely already aware, when you do this project, you only get half the fleet credits. So if you put in 2,000 fleet marks, you're only getting 1,000 fleet marks worth of fleet credits. So keep that in mind. If you have a lot of other fleet marks just lying around, I would always say to check this Armada tab, which can be a pain to use, but there's often going to be a fleet somewhere in your Armada that will let you contribute fleet marks to them that will have a project open needing something. So just keep an eye out there. Now back to this research lab. This special project slot is causing us a very big headache as of late, because people have been ignoring the text at the top that says only slot the combat buff project, and they have been going through and slotting, as you can see now, the Lithium Boost project. So let me pull up on the screen here the 3 options you have for this slot. Whatever you slot in this slot is only going to be able to be it's the only one of these 3 that will be there for the next 5 days. These are 5-day duration buffs, and you cannot unslot it once it is slotted, so you need to be very careful, or just don't slot anything there at all if you don't know what you're doing. So the first option is the Combat Performance Boost. This provides a small damage boost, a large hit point boost, and a speed and turn rate boost. If you're actually playing the game, this is the one that's actually going to help you out with playing content, with flying your ship around, with running around on the ground doing stuff. This is what's going to help you. The Lithium War Boost that people keep slotting for some reason, this is sort of a noob trap, is what I would classify this one as. This gives you 10% bonus dilithium ore. That's dilithium ore, that is not refined. So that means if I collect a contraband turn in, I'm getting my 2,000 normal dilithium ore that I would normally get from that, and an extra 200 on top of that. If you're playing the game a ton, dilithium ore should not be an issue for you. You can only convert so much of it a day. You can only refine so much of it every day. I should word that better. And it just, so many people that actually play the game have such a huge stockpile of dilithium ore. It just doesn't make sense, especially with the cost of this project. These projects all have the same cost as you can see on the right here, but this is 200,000 fleet credits, okay? The issue with these is that a lot of the fleet credits that are generated in a fleet, a very large chunk of them come from dilithium contributions. So in essence, So I looked at this back when these boosts initially came out. I have a bunch of characters on the KDF side in our KDF fleet that I do contraband on, or I did when I played the game actively. And with 40 KDF characters, I found that this project was not worth it because of that fleet credit cost, and it only being a 5-day duration boost. Because most of the fleet credits that I earn, and that I have earned through most of my contributions to the fleet, have come through contributing dilithium to projects. So I can essentially look at that 200,000 fleet credits as being 200,000 dilithium, and at that point, this project is not worth it. If you can run the math yourself. I don't have the exact numbers up in front of me right now, but I think I wasn't breaking even when I was calculating the contraband turn-ins on 40 characters. It just was not worth it. Now this last boost here is 5% bonus skill points. For this cost, I really don't think this is worth it, especially with how easy it is to level up in this game. That's a 5% boost, and if you're in a fleet like the Breakfast Club, let's look at this Armada tab again. By being the Alpha fleet in a maxed out Armada, we're already getting a 20% XP buff. It's not worth spending this much on an additional 5% boost. Like, as is, most of us that have played the game a long time, like, we don't really need those extra, that boost. It's not worth it. So that basically wraps things up. Just to summarize again, the things you don't want to slot are the basic provisioning projects, and then in the special project slot on the research lab, you don't want to slot the Dill project, and you don't want to slot the skill boost project. They are both bad investments and screw other people in the fleet over. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful to someone out there. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, and see you all next time.